Mr. Crowley, by his own preference, liked to be called the Great Beast. Looking out over the grounds of Boleskine House, past the graveyard, one cannot help but wonder if he saw himself as a kind of alter ego to that great beast under the black water. In his strange life, might he not have communed with the monster itself, as he claimed to do so often with the raised souls of the dead hovering over the silent stones of the ancient crypts?
And if Washington doesn't have enough to talk about these days, the Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a call boy ring. The paper reports that 2 of the male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year. The White House press secretary, Marlin Fitzwater, said he knew nothing of this investigation. NBC's Lisa Myers reports her sources in the U.S. Attorney's Office say the investigation is not focusing on prostitution, but on fraud involving the use of credit cards to pay for the call boy services.
Johnny Gosch vanished from his West Des Moines, Iowa neighborhood without a trace. The newspaper delivery boy was on his morning route when he disappeared. One theory, the boy was kidnapped, sexually abused, sold into a child sex slavery ring, and brainwashed by the CIA. Some claim Gosch was snatched for the Monarch Project, a government-sponsored mind and behavioral control program designed to create top-secret escorts. The story then picks up in 2005. The Internet was abuzz with word that former White House reporter Jeff Gannon may, in fact, be Johnny Gosch. The claim, based on similar body markings and a lack of information about Gannon's early years.
We have looked into some records that came from Pennsylvania where Mr. Gannon/Guckert supposedly went to high school. We've looked at photographs, and some of them match, some of them don't. There's several photographs that look strikingly like Johnny Gosch, and there are some that don't even look like him at all.
In February, Gannon was exposed. His name actually James Guckert, a man with no journalism experience whatsoever, who had links to several gay escort services online.
His deep involvement in personal use of drugs on himself and others, black magic.
When you say black magic, what are you talking about? I mean, some of the things that I read in the stack of material, it sounds just absolutely unbelievable. What are you talking about when you say this?
Well, the funny thing is that the actual truth is about as far out as Scientology itself. Really, the basis of Scientology, which is rather hidden and covered over, is the occult, the deep involvement with satanic powers. That he felt that he was deeply involved with a British black magician called Aleister Crowley, and through putting himself in deep hypnotic trances and the use of drugs on himself, he wanted to become the most powerful being in the world.
Did you consider all of this a religion?
Aleister Crowley, the late Aleister Crowley, my very good friend. He did himself a splendid piece of aesthetics built around those magic cults.
You may hear stories like this from time to time, and usually when they're reported on, they are confined to the region in which they happen, so that at a national or an international level, you really don't get the information unless you go to the internet and really dig this stuff out to connect these dots.
Now, dot number one actually did make the news. I know that it was on CNN and Fox News. However, it wasn't there for very long. It was just barely a blip, and it was the story of a young man who has been given for some time been given access to the White House press pool, and his name is what's the first name? Gannon?
Jeff Gannon.
Jeff Gannon. Thank you very much. Remember those initials, JG.
Jeff Gannon was a reporter for an internet news site called Talon News. Mm-hmm. And back in March, it came out that Talon News was really a partisan news source funded by a big Republican party backer down in Texas. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, as long as you can tell.
No, there are lots of those out there.
Sure. And as long as you can tell the direction of the spin, because there really is no totally objective news source out there, you can take it, filter it, and decide whether it's credible or not. I think what got the rest of the White House news pool upset was that this Gannon, whose journalistic background was limited to a 2-day seminar, was somehow getting passes to attend White House press briefings on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So some enterprising journalists started doing some checking and found out that Jeff Gannon was actually one James Guckert. Mm-hmm. James Guckert was previously the owner-operator of websites that solicited for clients as a male prostitute.
That's right. No bones about it.
Right. I mean, that's what just flat out. I mean, now you go to his website and he will not deny his past, but he'll say, look, this is what I was and what I am now is something different. And but that's not where the story ends. I mean, what the upshot of what happened there was that he was denied further access to the White House, and Talon News, the website, has shut down.
That's right. Now, this was Jeff Gannon. The story from 2005.
Right.
He was known as Jeff Guckert as recently as 1998. Mm-hmm. However, in 1987, he was known as James Guckert. Mm-hmm. In 1998, he was known as Jeff Guckert. Again, all these are the initials JG. In 1987, and folks, he claims to be.
Well, I think it is claimed that he is. He has not come out and claimed to be.
Oh, I thought he had.
No.
Okay, my mistake.
Now, see, this is the connection now. The upshot of this story, and where it really gets interesting. I mean, beyond the obvious question of how did this man, with his background as an online male prostitute, make it past
I couldn't
the
get into that
clearance.
press room, I'll tell you that.
Right. You've got to go through a lot of security checks in order to get access to the White House. And this is a question that was raised on left-leaning websites and blogs like the Daily Cause and Democratic Underground and so forth. And I'll admit, when I saw that they were the ones who were really raising the story and running with it, I kind of dismissed it.
You and I both said that.
Right.
Okay, this is a smear campaign.
Right. Smear campaign, tempest in a teapot. Okay, the guy's got an unsavory past, but people can change. Let's cut the guy a break.
Right.
Okay, well, here's where the story gets interesting. Shortly after he was outed, and maybe I shouldn't use that word, but anyway, after his past was disclosed, people began to speculate that maybe this James Guckert, Jeff Gannon, actually was born with another name, with the initials JG, Johnny Gosch, Gosch. And this is where the story gets weird.
Absolutely. You might want to take a minute and do a little search on Google for Johnny Gosch, Gosch. His mother is Noreen Gosch, Noreen. He is a name that came up when I was living in Nebraska back in
This was in 1982.
Yeah.
During the early morning of September 5th, 1982, 12-year-old Johnny Gosch was kidnapped from a neighborhood in West Des Moines while he was delivering newspapers. It was a very quick abduction. It was very silent and apparently a professional job. Johnny Gosch has been missing for 23 years, going on 23 years. Somebody, and I don't know the chain of events or how people managed to connect this together, started looking at pictures of Johnny Gosch as a youngster and comparing them to the photos that were available of James Guckert and Jeff Gannon. Mm-hmm. The similarities between the 12-year-old Johnny Gosch and the now 35, 36-year-old Jeff Gannon, James Guckert, are striking. Now, that's not proof in and of itself.
That's true. However, Tom Flacco was told by John DeCamp that DeCamp believes Jeff Gannon and Johnny Gosch are the same.
Right. Bloodline coming down to Pauline Pierce. Now, Pauline Pierce was friends with Aleister Crowley, and she is known to have gone off to France and had a ritual with Aleister Crowley. So Pauline Pierce and Aleister Crowley off doing. Now, what you must realize is once you get up in the higher levels of Freemasonry, with like the Ordo Templi Orientis, the order of the OTO, this is sex ritual, is sex magic, and that's where you get all of these hermaphroditic sexual symbols like target sun sign. So Pauline Pierce,
which is a pyramid from on top. Target symbols looking down on a pyramid, a step pyramid.
Pauline Pierce then has a sexual ritual with Aleister Crowley. She comes back, and lo and behold, she's pregnant. Now, whether or not she was pregnant through Marvin or through Aleister Crowley is not known by the public, but then what we find is she gives birth to Barbara. Barbara Pierce then marries the head of the CIA, George H.W. Bush, and we have
And you've tracked this. This is a fact.
This is, well, as much as we can prove Hitler's the Rothschild, I can prove W is the grandson of the beast.
Well, that's even in mainline history books that his father's mother did work in the Rothschild house, and that he did have a bunch of illegitimate children and did place her.
And it was mainstream media when Pauline Pierce went to France with Aleister Crowley and had a sexual ritual.
And so, and then she is connected to Barbara.
Yes, yeah. Pauline Pierce is Barbara Bush's mother.
That is a fact.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've looked. That's unbelievable.
And you look at the picture, you know, and Barbara Bush looks very much like Aleister Crowley, and that would make George W. Bush the grandson of the beast, 666, and that's what Aleister Crowley called himself. I look at the picture, I look at the news, I see it. You know, it's up to you to decide.
But to be clear, they admit that Barbara Bush's mother did have a tryst with Aleister Crowley.
Absolutely, along with Marvin Pierce, who is the owner of McCall's and Red Book magazines. Well, she went off without him and returned pregnant.
What a fantastic audience we had tonight. Washington power brokers, celebrities, Hollywood stars, Ozzy Osbourne.